according per the open meeting law. I'm going to take a quick roll call of the members present and then hand it over to Katie Roy, our chair. So members present, Chair Katie Roy.
Here.
Vice Chair Stephanie Silva. Clerk Aaliyah Marie Melville. Members Monica Goodwin.
Here.
Lauren Morocco.
Here.
Kate Norton.
Here.
And Jenny Cow. And so we opened the meeting at 5:57, and we have enough for a quorum to go on. Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. So we do not have minutes to review from the last meeting, so we can just jump right into the next agenda item. So I think not having knowledge that we were really secure in making this event happen next month, we've decided to not move forward with it, given there were a few people who are not available on that date. And then it just kind of felt like things were a little bit up in the air in terms of like what the actual program was and the things that we're able to secure. And I think, you know, my thought, and I'm curious to hear, I think it would be a good time for us to maybe realign a little bit about what our goals are and what we hope to accomplish as a committee. I personally, I feel as though events can be really great and powerful. But is that the impact that we seek to make? You know, I think sometimes when we have events, you end up with the same wonderful faces in the room, which is so great. But it's a lot of the same faces. And so are we really being a voice, and are we advising on the voice of women in the city if it's the same people in the room? And it's really nice, but is there more that we can do? Is there something different that we can do? So I think I'd like to hear what people are thinking. Lauren, do you want to share?
I just want to second that. That was pretty much exactly, I know we had sent that question out to the crowd. That was basically my thought exactly. You hit the nail on the head. I think I want to second that maybe we should pivot more to an advisory rather than events committee, because again, like you said, that is sort of the mission and the point of what this committee is. So thank you for saying that.
Kate?
I love that. I love that. I'd like to see us focus on moving the needle in a couple specific ways. Instead of doing an event for the sake of doing an event, let's start from a goal perspective and then figure out the tactics and tools that make the most sense to support that. I'm totally with you. I think that's a really, really smart way to go.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny?
I mean, I think jumping on that point is like, I'm also in agreement. I think when we consider advisory and stuff, like, I think for me, at least joining this committee, part of it was really going in to help educate and advocate for our community. And I think while the event we had in mind was a good idea, I'm not, I find sometimes that we might be too focused on our Women of Consequence kind of, key mark event, and we're not expanding upon our skill sets as much as we could to help support other avenues in the community. And so I guess my question building off of that is like, well, how do we approach this? How do we approach this to structure this goal setting so that we're not also spreading ourselves thin and kind of going in different directions again?
I think that is the question. I tried to do a little bit of research about what other committees that are similar to ours do across the state. And I looked at the state commission, and it wasn't super helpful. I didn't get a lot of information about what kinds of things they are doing. And I tried to click on their minutes, and it was like a page not found type of thing, which maybe is indicative of like, what are committees doing across the state, and are we all finding ourselves in this space of like, we're here, we want to be here, we have the same ideas in mind, and then like, how do we do that? and I'm trying to think of, I know in my first few meetings, we had, I think there was a report about something really specific, like women in violence or women's health or something like that, that someone came and reported on regarding stats throughout the city, for us to kind of be informed. And then I in my brain, that kind of thing I think would be really useful to be able to tap into. Is there a study that we could kind of discuss, and do we have thoughts about how we might change that, or things that we feel like we should be bringing to the city manager's attention, sort of that realm. But you're right, it's a huge thing, and where do we tap in? Kate?
Pat, I saw your hand up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry,
okay.
I can't.
That's
My
okay.
thing has your part covered. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot either, Katie. I'm sorry.
So,
got
so
Pat.
what I was gonna say is that, with the other advisory committees, we have 6 boards and commissions under our sort of oversight in my office. And this almost feels like, so we have the 2 new ones that we're just starting up. It kind of feels like we're in a similar place. And how we've tried to address this with new board and commission members is, like in a plenary sort of like, what are the issues that interest us that we think we can make, as you said, one of you said, move the needle about. And then how do we make recommendations? We regularly, with the other boards and commissions, submit recommendations to the city manager's office through Kevin, the chief equity officer. So for instance, I'm going to
Okay.
use the Human Rights Commission. If there's an issue that they feel very passionate about, they might make a motion, or we'll have a guest in, and it might bring up, some questions about the unhoused or whatever the case may be. And then that results in sort of, it blossoms into more, right? So I think the key thing is to define what issues are you all passionate about, and sort of strategizing what's the hierarchy of those, what can we get done maybe in the short term, and then what's long term, and then how do we structure our meetings so that we get the work of this done. It does take some work of the members outside of these meetings too. So that's the other difficult thing, because, you guys all have a life, you all have other jobs and families and other commitments. So this is not something that we can resolve just with 1 hour a month meetings. So that's sort of the push with these boards and commissions. But I think it can be done. I think if as you said, you were talking about a particular issue, it could even be one defining issue per calendar year, and you really, dig it out, right? But, I'm here to help facilitate that. I'm not here to tell you guys what you're gonna do. So, or you ladies, excuse me. I'm not here to say you're gonna do this, this, and this accordingly. So, I'm here to guide and sort of assist, get guests if there's someone you think might help lead a discussion or promote discussion, that kind of a thing.
I think the thing that I put together, that sort of, women run Worcester idea, I think has some potential in it related to some of the things that we're thinking about. But I have a couple, I mean, I brainstormed on this a little bit ago, and I wonder if it's like, I mean, we're thinking about it. Can I just run down a couple of ideas just to toss them out there and see?
Yeah.
One thing we talked about was maybe an online directory of women-owned businesses, or some way to feature women-owned businesses. So I wonder if there's something there. The stuff that's a little bit more labor intensive, maybe we consider a partnership on some of these ideas. But, something like, Her Story, Our City, Women Leaders in Worcester, can we share something? Or do we, I don't know, I'm just sort of spitballing ideas. Is it something that goes online? Is it something that the city might do? Like, let us put it on their platform. If we came up with the content, could we then use the city to communicate that externally? Let me just
We,
see
as, and,
here. Yeah.
before you get on to your next thought, we regularly have, I mean, we have resource pages on our own office website through the
Right.
boards and commissions that are with us. So we have,
Nice.
we're about to post an immigration resource thing. We just had to check all the
Excellent. Mhm.
citations and everything to make sure they were active. We have them
Great.
for the disability community. So yes, the city is very, although we're undergoing a really big project right now, which is about accessibility with websites. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
yeah, so that's, I don't think that's any barrier to content, like the type of content. It's just the style of content and how, the nuts and bolts of how that's going to happen, which, I'm like the category and the legal compliance part. I'm not an IT person. So
Yep,
we're kind
I
of
got
all
you.
we're working with an outside vendor actually on that right now.
Got it.
So, but right
I
now
like
we're
that.
doing like a 50 website review to see where we stand because it's an enormous undertaking to be compliant with this
Oh, God, yeah.
DOJ
Huge.
ruling. And
Yeah.
it's supposed to be in place by April. But as long as you're moving forward in the process, apparently you're
Yeah,
okay.
Grace. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
I got
But
you.
yes, the city does really cooperate with the boards and commissions,
Great.
subject to obviously their review, for
Right.
content.
Right. No, I like that. I mean, maybe if there's a way to, again, highlight women businesses, maybe we create a resource hub. So something like, info about like childcare or domestic violence support, reproductive health, things along those lines, resources for women, and Worcester resources for women, right? Local, central, mass stuff. So that I think might be kind of interesting. There's also I haven't quite fleshed this one out, but there's a women's history trail like across Massachusetts that I think I forget what it is. There's like a women's suffrage oriented, or that's how the organization got started. They have a women's history trail, and one of the markers is in Worcester. So I wonder if maybe a piece of this is making ourselves available to, or just reaching out in partnership with organizations like that. And maybe it's, hey, what are you all focused on? This is who we are. This is, here's what would be helpful, do you think? Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's something like that with some of those partner organizations, or maybe we do something with the schools. So maybe it's like something that we, I don't know, sponsor or find a way to coordinate, but something that's like STEAM in education or STEM in education for girls. So none of these are fully fleshed out ideas. And I think there's some that are like conceptual that are interesting and some that are practical in terms of what we could execute. So just erring on the side of inclusion. Feedback welcome. I am curious what folks thought about like the women run Worcester concept and et cetera too, though.
Monica?
Shut up now.
I like the woman run concept. I think that's a good idea. When I first started, I think the committee wanted to start that mentorship program, or that was one of the things that was being discussed, and then we ended up putting the woman of consequences obviously as a priority before that. But is that something we want to revisit eventually as well, just to bring that back up, or if we just want to focus somewhere else for goals?
Unfortunately, we're not in the position as an advisory commission to enter into the required memorandum of understanding that we would need to do a fully fledged partnership. What we had discussed in place of that was interviewing programs and possibly promoting 1, 2, 3 of them, whatever you decide, that are you feel are beneficial or speak to you all. But in terms of a partnership, which it hadn't been vetted out prior to me with the legal department, and there are a lot of stumbling blocks legally with entering into a contract. We're not able to enter into any contracted positions or with anybody because we are essentially the city of Worcester. So
Hey.
Um, I mean, in that regard, maybe, the mentorship hasn't really taken off, but it's also been very broad and a little bit vague too. So I wonder if we give it a little bit more of a focus, and it's not like, maybe it's something closer to what I suggested in the Women Run Worcester. Maybe it's just using our networks to connect people, or making ourselves available to women who want to run for office, or do you know what I mean? Maybe there's something that's a little lighter there, or something that's just a little bit more focused. So if you're a woman and you need a mentor and you want to run for office, like, come get in touch with us. We can help you do that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe giving it a little bit more tight focus. The other vehicle that we might consider here too, that we've talked about, is using some subcommittees to kind of flesh out some of this stuff, or run with some of this stuff. Because your point is really well taken, Pat, that like, we only have an hour a month. So what do we, you know what I mean? Can we, how can we balance that, and balance moving the needle and the need with everybody's schedules and commitments and responsibilities and so on?
I think my brain goes to a little bit of a different, so like when we talk about, I love on a personal level, like the Women Run Worcester, but I also think about how the vast majority of women in Worcester are not owning their own business. And what is the experience of someone who is trying to pay insane rent and raise kids and or work, and or not raise kids, but also, just the variety of like experiences, and what is it that needs to be communicated and addressed on a city level. And so like, in principle, I'm really excited to do this sort of like celebration of like women's history, and highlighting all these things that women are doing across the city. But I think it speaks to a pretty elite group of women, in a sense. And so if I am, here and I make my life here and I have struggles that are X, Y, and Z, what is it? What is the voice that is needed there? And is there a project that we could focus on that delves into that? Or like, is the question health equity? Is the question pay equity? Is the question, I mean, it's all of the things, but recently there was a lot of talk about the proposed SAVE Act and what that would mean for like voter suppression and all of this stuff. And so it seems like maybe that's a little bit dead in the water now. But that to me was something like, what are people needing in order to get to the space where they can be able to vote, and are people voting? And I'm trying to think of a way we can kind of take all of these and start like paring it down to like something that we can focus on. But yeah, it's a big question.
And it sounds like focusing on the moving the needle piece to help women that need it the most is, I also want to be mindful of what we can do in that space.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
yes.
that's the other, but I like it. Sorry, Jenny, you went off mute and I jumped in.
Oh, I just was wondering, we don't happen to have like a city census or something where we collect public feedback. It's just when I was in a formal TNI role, we kind of were starting up an LGBTQ community, and I spent an entire year just getting feedback from different professionals of different demographics within like the corporate world to understand kind of what their needs were. And I think I like Katie's direction of like, I would rather focus on us doing one or two things that really helps improve the quality of life for someone like the average woman. And I think it's great to celebrate women who have made a lot of success, but I think giving back and paying it forward to others who haven't reached that kind of pinnacle of, you know, quality of life is more, I think, significant and more meaningful for our purposes. And so I just don't know if there's certain organizations that we can, maybe invite to our meeting, or I guess even like public meetings. I don't know if we'll the full breadth of what we are able to do in a public or private setting, but to have meetings with people who are more connected to, you know, women within those demographics within our community first, to understand, you know, what they're seeing, just because we may be able to see things from a certain perspective, but they may have more reach that we don't, just to kind of hear more from the people rather than kind of speculate as to what could be, you know, good matters to focus on. So I'd like to start there first, just really, if we don't have a formal census already that we can get data from, to go out and collect that data ourselves and then make an informed decision on what those one or two things we want to focus on are. I think we still have a long year ahead of us, and so I don't think there's a rush to figure it out right in this meeting or the next meeting even, but maybe the next quarter, you know, we have an idea of what that focus is going to be.
I mean, I think that's a pretty interesting idea. Unfortunately, we don't have the data. Obviously, you know, our office is relatively new. It's about 2 years, almost 3 years old now. So, and really our office, the DEI initiative in Worcester is primarily focused inward on the workforce. So, not that we don't do anything in the community, but that was the number one goal when they instituted it, was to broaden, have equity and equality in the workforce in Worcester. And, you know, I would say maybe what you're saying, Jenny, if we get enough information, use that in some way to recommend recruitment of women from, you know, various groups, et cetera, to the city, because I think that's an area of opportunity for the city, honestly, for the human resources people to do different recruitment efforts. I know even for the positions in our office, sometimes we're getting the same resumes from people for every single job we post. And it seems sort of, you know, not worthy of review almost in some instances. Should we really spend the time, because we feel like we're not getting the most robust candidates because we're not properly seeking out those candidates, right? And of course, you know, we have such a diverse city. I mean, I always tell people that, you know, friends, family, et cetera, I meet someone almost every day in my work from someplace far off in the world that, you know, is an immigrant, or was born here and their family came here to make a better life for them, or whatever the case may be. And I literally have met people from every corner of the earth in Worcester, which is extremely interesting in a lot of ways, how we would gather that information and then push it out to where it would benefit the workforce in Worcester. It's good because it gives us people's experiences, their language skills, their cultural, you know, experiences, et cetera. So I think it could be especially important in the public safety world, because it's sort of unusual to me that we have all these immigrant people, but very few in any kind of public safety kind of role, when we're dealing with people all the time from all of these other places. And there's definitely a gap in being able to communicate and relate to people, and for people to see other people like them. So maybe that's a jumping off point, doing this sort of collection of data from different agencies, organizations, et cetera, to see what they've sort of already pinpointed the needs or gaps for us to try and make advice to the city.
So I have a couple of thoughts regarding research. So the first is the IIGA. I can't remember what it stands for. It's like the something Girls Alliance, and they do a huge study across the city of Worcester, and it's like what all the girl serving nonprofits use for our like girl data, essentially. So they're collecting data about girls, and I think there might be some really interesting nuggets within their most like recent study. One thing that I think is super interesting is that although violence in the city has gone down in the last 10 years, violence perpetrated by teen girls has gone up. And so really interesting stat. And I think us as a community, I think it's interesting for us to at least have that on our radar.
And to tag on to that just a second, Katie.
Yeah.
We just learned 2 months ago, we had the homelessness outreach team that goes out and actually has a census for the people who are living in encampments and everything. The incidence of homelessness has increased primarily for women in Worcester. And so they just made a drastic change and created one of the emergency shelters or winter shelters. It's only women now because there was such a need for it. And they were having issues where, people of opposite sexes were, co-housed or, close living. So that was a very interesting thing that I just wanted to tag on to you.
No, I think that's the kind of thing that I think would be good for us to know about. And then I have a contact who's the executive director of the Worcester Research Bureau, and I'm wondering if there is something that already exists that might be interesting for us to look at. So I'm happy to reach out to him and just say,
I
what do you
have
have
their
for
list
me?
of I have their list of publications. I'll circulate it
Oh,
because
even
we just
better.
had them at HRC. Paul Matthews, right?
Yes, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
We just had them come in and make a presentation to the HRC. So I will send that and see, you all can see if there's anything on there that, touches one of these topics or areas.
I think that would be interesting. Kate?
What a great idea about the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. That might be a kind of an informal partnership, or do you know what I mean? Like maybe not something that needs an MOU, but leveraging resources like that or groups like that. I love that idea, Katie.
And I think that he has a really great presentation on like redlining in the city of Worcester and like the origin. And so he's got a lot of like cool stuff, I think, for us to maybe tap into.
So we just actually talked about that at the HRC meeting. If anyone's bored and wants to listen to a 2-hour
Watch
meeting,
that.
we just had them in about that specific topic and how it sort of relates to the issue with the rental market, people being
Yep.
priced out of the rental market. But he went into the background and the history of this in Worcester.
Cool.
I wonder if they take suggestions or like ideas for things to research. Do you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
to your point, Jenny, right? Like research sort of current status. It's a little antagonistic for us to put out like a report card on the status of women, right? But if the Research Bureau could come up with something that's very factual, that might wed all these things together. I love these ideas.
I think so too. So maybe kind of just some action items that we have, or so we're working on something in the meantime, is we start looking at those research publications first, just to identify what's specifically kind of related to women. Because at the end of the day, I think, I want to understand, within the city's kind of bandwidth, right? What can we feasibly achieve? And it sounds like ultimately we want to see more women representation in the public workforce. And so in order to get there, I think that's kind of the long-term goal. But the short-term goal really is understanding first, what are those barriers to entry? What data do we have on that? What data do we not? And then from there, kind of having maybe a discussion with, the city manager and whatnot to understand, what can feasibly be done to start addressing one of those barriers or one or two of those barriers. But I think we got to start with doing some of our research first and making sure anything we say in these public calls is from an informed, I think, position rather than just kind of pure passion for wanting to support the community.
Yeah. I agree. In the interest of time, do we have anything else that we want to add to on that topic, or do we think we're at a good sort of like capping off point to move on to our next?
If we have like a next steps or sort of, a couple of tasks coming out of this, and we can circulate them to the group and people can grab some of them off of that to-do list. Like, I'm happy to read some reports, So whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I can too.
I will make
Okay.
sure I circulate the Worcester Research Bureau's list that I have. And I think it's got the hyperlinks on it too, if there's anything that jumps out at any of you.
The other topic that we had on the agenda for this evening is to talk about women of consequence and what direction we're headed in with that.
So one of the things that I sort of saw as a glaring sort of, it displeased me, was that it was limited to Assumption College, because I feel like if it was broader, like with all the colleges in Worcester, because we have plenty of them, that we'd get more applicants, we'd get more diverse applicants. We were kind of, we didn't really give any scholarships away, which seems to me like a missed opportunity for some young woman. More the young woman opportunity. The woman is more a recognition thing, but the young woman, this is a really big deal to get a scholarship for their education. So our contact at Assumption has actually just left there. I just got an email from her maybe 10 days ago. She's moved on to another position somewhere else. But she did give her department my information. And so one of the things I wanted to bring up was, if any of you have contacts in the higher education world, how can we broaden this to be young women of consequence that are from any Worcester college or, community college, university, whatever, versus just Assumption College? Because I think that is extremely limiting. And that's what's happening to this, because they don't even have that many students there. So,
Right.
I mean, funny enough, I have a lot of kind of older residents in my apartment complex, and one of them happens to work in admission, used to work in admissions, and whatnot, within the Worcester Consortium. So um, I can take a zap at reaching out to her, as well as kind of some folks like Maureen Benenda and I are well connected and things like that. And she's well connected to the school systems. And so
she's the
just trying to
former superintendent, right? The former
Yes.
superintendent? Okay.
So I can do some outreach there, but I do agree. I think if I imagine similar to the Boston one, like the Worcester Consortium of Colleges definitely has someone who's probably liaison amongst all the colleges, right? Like I can't imagine they're all just working in silos. And so I would like to think if Assumption as a standalone can offer a scholarship, right, that in a consortium of colleges could put out the same opportunity, even if it's just for the same amount, right? But then at least that student has access to more than just one college.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be good information for us to find out and then think about if we can pivot that a little bit.
It may be as simple as this event has always been a certain way just because it's always been done that way. And nobody's asked the question of other universities, or nobody, you know what I mean? So
Right.
this feels like a really good reset point for this one too,
I agree.
Jenny, if you get a name or anything, you can email me and I'd be more than happy to do the reaching out and seeing, what exactly, let them know what the Women of Consequence, Young Women of Consequence has historically been. And is there any way to sort of broaden the partnership between our group and that group of colleges and universities in Worcester? Because I do honestly think that it's kind of sad that no one got a scholarship and it just went, yeah. I mean, I know I applied for tons of scholarships when I was in college. So, and it's unbelievably expensive now. So this money would be helpful to, I think, anyone. So I'd like to see the next time we do it that it gets used.
Lauren?
I just have a quick question, and forgive me that this is a logistics question of something that we just did. Do we give anything to the woman of consequence at all? And if we don't,
No.
okay, is there a way that we can maybe partner with someone, just spitballing here, and I know that it's more work for us to do, but is there is there some way that we can maybe find a way to give something to them as well? Maybe if it's something for their business or their thing that they've done so well, that we can kind of give back to them in the way that they gave back to the community.
I can't really speak to that because it wouldn't be coming from the city anyhow, because even the scholarships aren't coming from the city. So we're
Right.
sort of at the mercy of someone's like grace and kindness to volunteer that, but I don't think there's any legal barriers to it. I think if we were to have someone say, hey, we're going to give $1,000 or 2,000 or whatever the amount is donation to your agency, that this fantastic woman who put all of her time and energy into supporting on behalf of her winning this award, I think that's a very really nice gesture, and really might increase the amount of applications we get for that as well. But as it stands now, we don't give anything, but it's the recognition of the being the woman of consequence above all other applicants, sort of thing.
Can I
Are we
ask
allowed-
another? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I ask one more logistical question? So are we allowed, and Pat, you don't have to answer it right now, but maybe this is like a question for later, whoever you can ask. Are we allowed to apply for like sponsorships on behalf of the city of Worcester? So like okay, because that would be
No.
my next question, is like maybe we can apply for like, I don't know, Bank of America can sponsor for
Yeah.
1,000 or
No,
something.
but
'cause
we could
that's what I
direct
do for a
them.
living, so I can do
Yeah,
that and try them
we
out.
could direct them to contact our office and see if we can funnel that into the right people at the city that do that. I mean, it's just, that's not what I do. So I'm sure that there may be an avenue where we can do something, legitimize something like that. It's just nothing that we can do in our informal group. But I don't see why we couldn't try.
Okay.
Because it's essentially what's happening with the young woman, right? It's a school offering up the scholarship that we do all the work to, produce this program every year and then choose a winner. So I think it's something that would be, I'd be willing to sort of carry up the hierarchy if we find something.
Yeah, I could send a list of places that we could apply to, so I would be happy to do so.
And so I guess maybe for the sake of time, maybe that's where we start, right? Because I think the overall brainstorming behind the Women of Consequence was trying to figure out how to expand the pool of candidates and before we really officially start the new year process. And so I think if in terms of our like broad to-dos, right? If we have like a list of, one subset committee focuses on that research portion, one subset committee, like with myself, focuses on getting, the student scholarship, and then one subset focuses on getting the women's scholarship or kind of award, then maybe we kind of split our efforts there and then regroup the next time. And then I think that should sufficiently take up a good amount of our time outside of, our daily responsibilities. Until next time.
Kate?
One thing that we have not talked about yet, but we really should, is thinking about the way that we evaluate those submissions as well. Apologies if I think I missed a meeting too, so I apologize if this is already a discussion that's underway. But I think we all had concerns about the way that they were scored before in terms of equity and fair consideration. So I'll just put that on the table. And again, we don't need an answer for that right now, but just tossing it out there for conversation.
I think it all needs to be revamped. I think it needs to be one application per person. We were getting 11 and 12 applications from some people because they were going around and asking everybody they know to submit, thinking that was going to weigh in their favor. That shouldn't have anything to do with this. It should be the quality of the application. And then we should do something, very similar to what we do when we're hiring. We have sort of a spreadsheet. It's got points on it, and you've got to tick off all the points, and at the end there's a score. So really, I mean, even when I do these, when we're hiring, I don't even put I put their initials on there because I don't even want to know if you're a man, a woman, none of that matters. We're trying to do things fairly and equitably. We want to look at your qualifications and your experiences, see how they weigh against what we're looking for the job. And then, we should, I think, approach this in a very similar manner.
Yeah, because I recall there was like some entries got a bunch of, or excuse me, some got a bunch of nominations that we then had to consider on the whole, and then one got a really well thought out, really well written. Do you remember that? And it was great. But again, one of the one of the evaluation pieces, I think, was quality of the submission, or something like that. So I want to make sure that we've got something that reflects the actual skill set and good things of the woman being nominated, and how do we do that in an objective way?
That might be something too that I can actually ask someone in the HR department to help us develop that so that it's more automated, like where we would just take the applicant's information and feed it into the spreadsheet, like as I'm saying we do with people with jobs, and see to make it more of a blind sort of review of things.
Yeah, I think that's great expertise to lean on, just to see what's out there or what we could do. But we're all on the same page, yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
I thought so. All right, good.
You know, I've noticed since I came here to this position that a lot of the boards and commissions, they've just been sort of static and just done things over and over and over again that they did the year, like every January we do this, and then we do this in April, then we do this. And I've tried to really get away from that because I don't think it's the most effective way for us to function. And, you know, I've had limited success because some of the boards are harder than others. You know, there's people who are on there as holdovers for years and years on some of these boards. So, you know, I like this kind of avenue that we're exploring.
I have to believe that we all came here because we feel passionately about something in this realm. And when you get everybody fired up and we're raring to go, and then it's like, okay, we do it this way and we do it this way. And so like, I mean, we're the committee. We might as well, you know, do what makes sense to us.
Just a little personal thing too. I would really love us to make some effort. I don't know how, but to find some way to engage so that we get more women and people under the age of 50 on some of these boards and commissions too. Just throwing that out there for an idea
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
noodle on.
I
So
agree.
just
That's
also,
going to be my suggestion for maybe something that we focus on, even if it's like paired with voter drive or running for office or something hand
that's
in hand. I don't
something
know.
I know the city would be really interested in because we actually tried to have a recruitment effort about 5 months ago. And the person who tried to do the recruitment effort, you know, was not, they just didn't have the tools to do it, right? Both professionally, personally, and otherwise. So, and I will tell you that, particularly on the Accessibility Advisory Commission, we've really been trying to reach out to the younger people in Worcester that are members of the campuses at these various colleges and universities, because I mean, I'm completely certain that they have high amount of people who are members of the disability community, yet for some reason we cannot get them to volunteer on this board. And the people, you know, we have a shortage of people on there right now, and we have people who've been on there for, you know, 10 years, 12 years. And we just, you know, we need to sort of lean on the younger sort of viewpoint for some things to make progress. So
Is there anything else? I think we've started the conversation about women of consequence. Again, I think it's going to take, you know, some time, and I would like to be able to hear from the other members of the committee before doing too much to move forward with that. Is there anything else on that topic that we feel like we want to put out on the table? Okay. Is there anything else that was not on the agenda that we feel like we should discuss?
I will reiterate to all of you, if you come across any tidbits of information, just shoot them to me via email and I will get them out to everyone. Especially focused on the things we've talked about tonight. So
And then I guess just for ability's sake, so we don't run into the same issue we ran in with the women's event, is if we're can we possibly send out like whatever those action items are, like in Excel or something, and say, we need two, I don't know how many people we have on this committee at this point, but like 2 people for this, 2 people for that, just so we have actual names listed and people to be held accountable to the next meeting. Otherwise, it kind of becomes, well, like, well, who's gonna do what? Like, I'm just gonna wait to see who signs up first, and then no one responds, and then we end up in the same situation again.
I don't mind creating that, but you all need to do that, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
mind sending it. Like,
Okay,
Oh,
that
yeah,
would
for
be
sure.
super
I
helpful.
think
That's
I
a
would
good
just like
idea.
to see like a visual for people to see like a directory of, this is all the things that this is the task list that we have to do. It doesn't get lost in like the email chain, I guess.
And sometimes it's about being specific with the ask too, right? So like, we need this, like, I think people are
Yeah.
willing to help. There's a nice energy on this board right now,
Do we need another plan for, like tonight's minutes since Aaliyah's not here?
I'll talk to you offline about that, maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
Right now I'm gonna ask one of our staff people to step in and do them because I can't be 3 months behind. It just is not in my nature. So, and my
Fair
OCD
point.
is like cooking in, like I'm like, oh my God. So, I'm gonna make some decisions about that and see what it is we need to do. If I have to go back to doing them temporarily or whatever, but, yeah, I can't be holding on these for 3 months because, I like to post them, put them on the city website where they're supposed to be neat and tidy over there with all the other public information. So, it does give me cause for concern.
I wonder if, not to take too much more time, but I just wonder if it would be allowed for us to do minutes on like a rotating, like we each have to take a month or something, or do they need to be more consistent than that?
It doesn't have to be. You could not have a clerk position and do something like that where you would designate someone every month as the chair. You could basically say, hey, Kate Norton, you're the minute taker this month, and then Jenny, you're next month when we meet. It's possible, and I think we never really had a problem with the content of the minutes. It's just the actual work and getting them done.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Can I ask a very quick question on that? And Pat, feel free to shut this down fast, but is there some kind of AI solution to this where we have the meetings recorded and we have a transcript and we have do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so the open meeting law requires, for purposes of people to be aware of bodies like this debating issues, it's
Yeah.
really for an awareness thing only. It's not meant to be an archival sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So there is,
Okay.
to me, that would be a shortcoming of AI because then
Yeah.
we would have to go in and peel back things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I gotcha.
yeah, and
Okay.
that's a fight
That's
I've
an
had
idea.
with other boards and commissions where they were literally transcribing the meeting, and I'm like, nope, 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 this is not what the state requires. The state requires, a little blurb about concise what was talked about for each agenda item, et cetera. So, it doesn't have to be like, oh, everything Kate said, everything Jenny said, everything
Right.
Monica said, it does not have to say that. It can be like, oh, there was a robust discussion about the women of consequence, and the
Got it.
board came to a consensus of A, B,
Yeah.
C, D, E kind of a thing. So,
Okay.
that might
Okay.
be overkill.
Got it. Okay. No, I was just curious. Cool.
Did you say that the city was going to Zoom at some point or not?
Yeah, they were going to Zoom in June of 2023 when I
Oh,
came here,
okay.
or whatever it was. Yeah, and I've been getting barbecued by the other boards and commissions. They're like,
Oh,
"Where's
no.
Zoom? Where's Zoom?" I'm like,
Oh,
we're pushing in our office to get the boards and commissions, especially the accessibility, because the disability community has a strong preference for Zoom, as do many people. So we're trying to find out what exactly is the holdup on that. Because I've
I
been
asked
telling people since I came here, we're getting Zoom,
that
like we're
we're going
getting
to
it
Zoom.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked because Zoom, I sit on another board that, and I'm the secretary of that board, and we do it on Zoom, and it does like a really nice job with the minutes. It does like meeting minutes, so it's just like Katie says she's going to do this, Jenny says she's going to do this, and you know, and I can go in and edit or whatever. It's not just like a transcription, but it's pretty handy. I usually just review and send.
I will
for
be
that one.
excited to see that if that's the case. Yes.
Yeah,
I
I think it
I
would be
didn't
good.
I didn't know that. I haven't used Zoom in
Yeah.
a long time because the state uses Teams, so, and before that they used WebEx. So, I don't have a lot of experience. I know I have used Zoom in the past, but even a few times we've been on it with vendors that we're dealing with in the office. It looks totally different than this, and the icons or little emoji things are different. And one thing I will mention to all of you, if you get into City Hall, go up to the 4th floor and look at the accommodation pod. We had a little open house there on Thursday, and there were a lot of people there. We've already gotten requests to use it. It's really cool. Really
Nice.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I love it. Nice.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
I don't think so.
we
This was a good
can-
meeting.
This was a really good meeting. I'm glad we all made it in.
Yeah.
All right. This meeting is officially adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you too.
Thanks,
Thanks, all.
guys.
See you
Have a good
later.
night. Bye.
Have a good night.